So, one of the major news stories of this last month was this mega settlement between the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of folks who said, "Hey, why are we all paying a 6% commission on houses?"
Hmm.
So, the actual settlement was something like $418 million. It hasn't been approved as yet. It looks like it will be. It hasn't officially gone into effect. What was the read from the business world on this settlement? Do people think it's going to help the US real estate market?
I was talking to realtors all about this as I was reporting out the story, and basically, it was a settlement thanks to an antitrust settlement. And so, the National Association of Realtors is paying that $418 million, but more importantly, for buyers and sellers, they've agreed to drop their commission rules for buying and selling homes at like standard 5 to 6%
Yeah.
that you see. And so the realtors I spoke with are like, this is probably not going to have like a major impact on home prices, but it will certainly help people when it comes to selling your home. But basically, it's like the critics say that like the National Association of Realtors had this like lock, this like monopoly essentially, and they were sort of untouchable in the words of one expert that I talked to. And then people were starting to question like, okay, what services are real estate agents actually providing, especially in a time where we have so much information, whether you're checking on Zillow or Redfin or whatnot, and you're kind of doing this search yourself. And so the idea is like, it exacerbated the affordability crisis. And so maybe now that it will be rolled back, if it's approved by the courts, it's supposed to be rolled back in July, then maybe it will help in some cases. Because everyone's asking the same questions, like, why are housing prices so high? Like, and there's a lot of forces around that. Obviously, inventory is an issue, but these associated costs in the eyes of the critics out there are like driving up the price. So the NAR was basically like, okay, we're not going to like fight this anymore. We're just going to settle it and like try and get it to bed. And like, they think that this is going to be best for their own outcome, but it remains to be seen. I think it depends on what kind of real estate agency or realtor you're talking to.
Yeah. So, some of the numbers, the average US home price is now around 417,000. So a 6% commission added about $25,000 to the cost of buying a home. And you'd have to think that that's going to go down. I certainly am part of the gajillions of Americans who Zillow snoop and, just look
Yeah.
around. And it does seem like this commission is something of an anachronism of like an earlier time, because at this point you could
Yeah.
find out a
Vestige
lot.
of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You could find out a lot about homes as a buyer or a seller. It was unclear why you were paying this 6%. One of the things that did give me pause on it is that there are about 1.5 million realtors in the U.S. Two-thirds of them are women, because it's kind of a part-time role that you can fit in various ways. The median
It's
income
flexible. Yeah.
in 21 was something like $42,000, which translates to someone selling like a house or two a year in most communities. And so what you're doing in many ways, I think it is going to lower prices at the margins, but at the expense of this part-time job that hundreds of thousands of women were doing around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's part of me that's like, look, I'm pro this move, because if you can reduce friction from a market as important as the real estate market, you want to do it. And like, paying an extra 6% really doesn't make any sense. But I will say
And
that,
it's interesting too. Like you bring up a really interesting point because you're talking about like a workforce, right? A
yeah,
major workforce.
yes,
And
yes, yes.
so when the real estate agent I talked to here in Southern California, like just south of LA, he was telling me this guy named Rick Elder, and he owns Vista Sotheby's. They sold 1,200 homes in Southern California last year. He's got 250 agents, right? Obviously, not all of those are full-time agents, like you said. And so his take was he doesn't think there's going to be like a change in the revenue that his real estate agency brings in. But he thinks that newer agents who are trying to break in and come into the market are going to have to work harder to make the same amount of money that they maybe once would have pre-settlement. And his idea is like, that's actually good for the consumer because you have to have more customer service and more sophistication in the way you approach your clients to actually provide what he calls more value to the people who are hunting for homes.
Yeah, I think he's right. It's going to advantage the more professional firms that have the ability to deliver value, and then frankly, like the random person looking for a second job, it's going to be much harder for them to have any kind of foothold and then justify a commission at a certain level. I mean, you referred to it earlier. I mean, the main reasons why houses are so expensive in the US has to do with the fact that we haven't built enough, and you have these zoning regs that restrict various affordable housing units. I'm actually on the advisory board of a company called PadSplit that tries to make it so that different service workers can rent rooms in various houses. And one of the main things they run afoul of is like local regs that like, no, you can't do that. Even though, by the way, the vast majority of people who are using PadSplit as consumers are people of color who work in service occupations and don't want to have to commute 2 hours to get to their job. You know, I mean, it's super. So you have rules and regs that are keeping housing supply down. And then, of course, you have these high interest rates, which we can dig into a little bit more, that have doubled the effective mortgage of most
brutal
homes. And so you show up and be like, I can't afford this, because, you know, you do the math on an 8% mortgage, like you'd be paying twice as much per month as you would have a little while ago. So those are the main things that are keeping the housing market out of reach. Though I do think this settlement might shave a couple percentage points off of what people are paying.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have so many people locked out of the housing market, like just not just interest rates, but like all the things you just talked about, right? So you have them, a lot of pent up demand over the past few years, people just like waiting at the gates to tap into what does create generational wealth and major like economic security, like all the things you want as part of the American dream. People can't get it. And so this settlement could benefit buyers in that way, in that it will maybe, you know, shave prices a little bit and allow more people in. But overall, because of that high demand, don't expect your prices to like come down in a super meaningful way, because that takes time, not just because of the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, but overall, when prices come up this far, you know, they don't drop like a rock. It takes a while.
Yeah, sellers hate to have prices go down as part of it. That there are a lot of folks who just take their place off the market and be like, I'll wait for it to bounce back, because like they you know, it's funny. There's like people will recalibrate to a new value if it goes up, but they won't recalibrate if it goes down. They'll be like, my true value is
too brutal. It's too hard.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe, and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.